BMI is broken. And to be honest with you, it's not just broken now, it's always been broken. It's always been a metric that doesn't really matter when we're talking about what your body weight is made up of. It doesn't look at how much of that is water weight and is that significantly enough water weight to be healthy. It doesn't look at that. It doesn't look at how much of your weight is muscle and how much of it is body fat and are those levels appropriate. None of that happens when you're looking at BMI. BMI, again, is solely your height and your weight. And we look at the two of them together and we come up with kind of a random assessment of, all right, is this probably a good height to weight ratio? And the reason why that doesn't work is that if someone has a lot of muscle tissue and very low levels of body fat, someone else at that same weight, let's say both people are 180 pounds, hypothetically, someone else who has the opposite at that weight, let's say they have very, very minimal muscle tissue, they're under muscled, but they've got very high levels of body fat. Well, they can still weigh that same 180 pounds that the first person weighs, and these two people can certainly be the same height, but they have very, very different body compositions. And body composition is where the truth really lies when we're talking about your health outcomes, your health span, when we're talking about your longevity, when we're talking about your risks for everything from joint damage to even brain health matters to cognition as you get older, and certainly things like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So body composition, which is the assessment of how much of you is fat, how much of you is muscle, that's what matters. BMI is kind of a pretend version of that, where they say, okay, if your height is this and your weight is this, we want you to be roughly this, this is where you score, but that score doesn't really mean anything until we know what your body composition is. And so you'll see this manifesting in a lot of different ways. I've had so many physicians send people to me with the guys that this person has too high of a BMI. And so the person will come to me, we'll start a program. After a certain number of weeks, they've often gained 6 or 7 pounds of healthy weight, usually skeletal muscle, some water weight, and sometimes some bone mineral density too. But so however you look at those, they'll add up to 6 or 7 pounds of healthy weight. And they'll often lose 6 or 7 pounds of excess body fat, which is unhealthy weight that's hurting the body and it's increasing risk of all kinds of health problems. And so what happens here? Well, if they gain 6 or 7 good pounds and they lose about 6 or 7 bad pounds, hypothetically over those first couple of months or so, well, now their BMI is not really changed because their weight hasn't really changed. Yeah, they've gained a lot of good weight and they've lost some bad weight, but at the end, it's all shaking down to the same on the scale. So their BMI doesn't change because, again, their height's not really going to change either. Their weight hasn't really changed. Now they go back to the physician and they end up saying, oh, geez, this narrative isn't looking good. BMI is relatively unchanged from program onset. But in reality, we've had hundreds of other metrics, of meaningful metrics, that are tremendously improved, right? Their network of blood vessels is far better. Their risk for cardiovascular disease has come down significantly. We can predict better longevity and health span to the tune of several years, usually, just from making those little changes. But those changes are not detected by BMI because, again, BMI is only looking at height and weight, which don't really tell us much of anything. And so that's the big problem with BMI. And that's why I really, really, really recommend that you solely look at body composition. Ask me in the comments if you want to talk more about body composition, but I'll tell you briefly, you can get a DEXA scan, usually for just about a couple $100 in most parts of the country. And although there's a little bit of radiation and it's not always terribly convenient to go do, take some time, that will give you some meaningful information about your health risks and where things are headed. But BMI, again, in most cases, unless we're talking about the extremes, unless we're talking about someone who's 500 or 600 pounds or someone who's only 80 or 90 pounds and they're 6 feet tall, unless we're talking about the extremes, it doesn't really tell us a whole lot that we can confidently rely on. So anyway, everybody, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Please comment down below. You can also go ahead and reach out to me. And if you look in the description, I've got all kinds of free services that you can jump onto. You can work with me remotely over Zoom, and in some ways, it'll cost you absolutely nothing. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day, everybody.